So one of the things we talked about last year was how when you first launched Facebook, the first other colleges you expanded to were ones that had competing services. So I didn't ask you at the time, but I wonder now, why did you win? What was it that Facebook had that the competing services didn't?
I think it was just this focus on real identity and the connections between people. But it goes back to this theme where before Facebook on the internet, you could find a lot of information about a lot of different types of content, but the thing that we as people care the most about, which is other people, right, around us, I mean, our brains are just wired that way, it wasn't there. And if you think about it, the reason is that that information about people isn't just out there on the internet to be indexed by some search engine, right? You can't just send a web crawler around and learn what's going on with people. You have to build tools that give people the power to share that content themselves. And that stuff didn't exist. And if you go back, most of the way that people interacted online was anonymous, right? And the idea at the time was that it was pretty scary to put your name and real identity online without the right privacy controls and without kind of the right community infrastructure. So I think that that's a lot of what we built, was a framework where people would be comfortable sharing in that way. And
were people able to share less on these competing services? There were 3 universities you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean,
Stanford, Yale, and Columbia.
Yeah, they each had different things. I think some of them were just, they gave people less ways to express content about themselves. None of them, I think, had a concept of connections, right? So one of the things that, if you think about friending—
You couldn't friend people.
Yeah, and if you think about friending today, and one of the reasons why it's important is because you get the person's content in your newsfeed, right? And there was no newsfeed back then, right? So a lot of the reason that friending was good was just because you could put someone on your profile and say that you were connected to them. So just like people were more fascinated than intuitively it seemed like they should have been about looking and clicking through the classes that people were taking, a lot of people also just wanted to see who other people knew. There was nothing like that existed.